This international event began 3 years ago with people in 95 countries participating. It was started by Michael Rothenberg, who is the editor of Big Bridge Publishing, and he also publishes a zine called Big Bridge. So in 2011, Stanford University recognized this event as the largest international poetry reading in history. And it's grown since then. This year there are over 550 events that are occurring simultaneously in more than 100 countries. So it already started on what was our yesterday in other international time zones.
Wow.
Very exciting. Anything that's been posted on the organization's Facebook page this year is being archived by Stanford University. So the video that Eric is making for us will be archived at the university. That means that your reading will be archived at Stanford University, and you can use that as a credit. And it's pretty exciting, isn't it? I have in this basket folded pieces of paper that have names, names of locations and countries where events are occurring around the world. And we'll pass the basket around. I ask you to, before you actually read your work, tell us your name, and to read the names on the piece of paper. You can either dedicate your work, your reading, to those poets in those communities, or in some way acknowledge them, because this is a reading about solidarity. It's about creative expression and the inspiration that poetry and visual and performing arts offer for creative change. So take the basket and pass it on.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kadijah Adams, and I'm a poet that advocates for change, and this is what we're here for. So I'm going to dedicate my poems to the people of Baltimore, Maryland, and Bridgetown, Barbados, for all those poets who are inspiring change in the world. This poem is about recognizing the elders and appreciating the elders in our community. It's called Don't Forget About Nana. Nana turned 80 today and waited. She waited by the phone, patient yet excited. Children gone, living their lives, sporadic visits, grandkids and great-grands, knowing names and seeing photographic growth, missing hugs and kisses. And when she saw them, she noticed the fear in their gazes, fear of her wrinkled skin, fear of her white hair, fear of her frail body, fear of knowing they would one day be like her. And within her lived a beautiful, young, and adventurous mind, encased in expiring flesh. But Nana would always remain flesh. And with that phone call, she would share many things. She would talk about her new business ventures, the returns on her latest investments, the hip-hop classes she took, her brand new car, the zip line, the hot air balloon, the parachute drop. And at this age, Nana was fearless of all except for one thing. At this age, Nana's only fear was that her telephone might not ring. Okay, this next poem is to address the issue of child sexual abuse. It's called She Speaks Her Truth. And the girl dreamed of princesses and castles in faraway lands, a room full of the most beautiful treasures one could imagine, the sky radiant in the day and glowing at night, with myriads of stars illuminating her world from end to end. Oh, how she saw herself orbiting the moon as an astronaut, gazing upon the miniature Earth, pretending she could hold it in her hands. She peeked through her many blinds, watching as the people moved about her neighborhood. She could see out, and no one could see in. She saw each family, each person, as perfect specimens of human being. Families sitting around their dinner tables, laughing and jovial, Oh, how she longed for her fantasies to be realities. But she existed in dark places, in the shadows of evil, her innocence lost by the urges of a sexual deviant. She was not protected, she was not safe, and she had no faith or belief that this world was good. But she grew up from a girl to a woman, and although she faced a life sentence, she was paroled, no longer a victim. She was healed. Through the power of her voice, which was once silent, she speaks her truth with power and strength, no longer afraid as she once was. And she speaks for the children that are sexually abused every 2 minutes. And she speaks against a faulty system where drug criminals get 14 years to life and perpetrators of child sexual abuse get 2 to 10. And she speaks against the courts and the judges that return children to the homes where they were abused. And how is that justice when some victims of child sexual abuse serve a life sentence of pain and turmoil? And how is that fair when victims are more likely to become substance abusers and inmates? And how is that right when sexually abused children become adults with mental illnesses and adults with failed relationships because they lack the ability to trust? And we trusted our family, our friends, our neighbors. And we trusted our coaches, our teachers, our leaders. And we trusted that saying, stranger danger, when 90% of sexually abused children are violated by someone they know and someone you know. And the girl dreamed of princesses and castles in faraway lands, a room full of the most beautiful treasures one could imagine, the sky radiant in the day and glowing at night, with myriads of stars illuminating her world from end to end. Protect the dream. Protect our children. This is my daughter, Sway. And she's going to read her poem.
This poem is about me. Okay? I love to dance. I love to sing. I love to do everything. I wish I can stay. I wish I can leave. I wish I can do many things.
My poems are dedicated to the people of Minot, North Dakota. I think it's Minot. I don't know that town. Minot. And I'm really happy because they're also dedicated to Belfast, Ireland. And we lost one of the best poets in the world from Belfast, Ireland, just quite recently, who certainly was a poet for change, and there was a lot that needed changing when he first began writing poetry. So I have 3 poems, and the first one is called The Air and Space Museum. And for those of you who might not know, the Enola Gay was the airplane that dropped the atomic bombs in Japan. And I did learn that some people don't actually know that, but they need to know that. Sitting beneath the Enola Gay with a Japanese couple who do not speak English, I want to say, that's the end of my first poem. The second poem is called West of the Eye. Today's clouds have blown in from the east, subtle grays banded with light. When the wind picks up, it is no more than a breeze that starts the trees dancing, like a child dancing, like Sun Ki saying, I know a Burmese dance, let me show you. Draped in an iridescent scrap of cloth, hands palm to palm, on top her head, Sun Ki spinning and swaying among us. These clouds glazing the blue ridge from the east today are not at all like Sun Ki slamming against me as she steps off the bus, tears raining her face. Today is only overcast. It is not Sun Ki's sister dying in Thailand. The wind today is not anything like Sun Ki shouting, I'm not staying here, I hate you all. And my last poem has some opportunities for you to be a part of the poem. So when you hear a phrase over and over, start saying it with me, okay? And the name of the poem is Guantanamo Bay. Guantanamo Bay. Write down the title and the poem is nearly complete. Its Caribbean lilt of syllables dazzling as aquamarine set in flawless white, Guantanamo Bay. Say it aloud. Let its vowels and consonants roll like waves could roll across your lips. Set it to music. It will sing. Guantanamo Bay. Give it bass and treble, cello for depth, flutes for light, violas to slowly harmonize the competition of bird with wind.
Guantanamo Bay.
Play its melody with the certainty of violins.
Guantanamo Bay.
Play it in a still place where incense is burning and windows are shuttered to filter the light. Say it with me.
Guantanamo Bay.
Like a prayer.
I really want to thank Polly for putting this together. It's a great thing. She talked a little bit about the dedication of people that do these events today. There will be people going to jail. There will be people risking their lives in countries like Bangladesh and Iran, where they will try to, speak about subjects that no one dares speak about in public. There will be dancing in Jamaica. There will be all kinds of things going on today. So I'm glad we're all joining in with them. Polly, I do believe single-handedly put this together, and I'd like to give her a little. I'm dedicating this poem to Phoenix, Arizona, where I went to high school, and which could use some change. And Oswego, New York, which I know nothing about. I'm sure it's better than Phoenix, Arizona.
Luck of the draw.
I think I'm only going to read one poem, and it's a brand new poem.
Great.
So,
Great.
bear with me. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the poem, which I usually don't do, but yeah, I will. My son is 23 years old, and he recently, him and his friend, his roommate, they're down at Virginia Tech in graduate school, and they recently came up to Charlottesville to go to a race at Wintergreen that was a really difficult, what do you call those races where they go over obstacle course like thing. Yeah, that's what it was. And it was called the, just a minute, I'm getting it up here. I'm not really good at this. It was called the Spartan Warrior Challenge. And it was a phenomena that just kind of blew me away. I had no idea such things existed, nor had the kind of popularity that they do, because seriously, there were thousands of people from all walks of life, not just young people like my son there. And so I was a spectator, and thus the name of the poem. A spectator at the Spartan Warrior Challenge. I'm waiting for my son to appear over that far ledge, or come trudging through a thick tangle of trees to my left. My knees hurt. I think about sitting in this luxurious grass, but worry about ticks and chiggers and things wanting to puncture my skin. I can't recognize him in the long string of bodies pushing up that hill. Young Adonis, bare-chested and numbered, marching tirelessly in the distance. From here, they all look the same. I wonder about Spartan warriors. We know what happened to them. But did Sparta survive through their sacrifice? Or was it another town that changed. Another time. I remember returning from my generation's war, returned to a neighborhood in shambles. How long do we wait for the others to come home? A face emerges through the trees, but it's not his face, not my son, someone else's son. I can't tell. There's a gas mask covering his features, uniformed in dust and gray, not green, this camouflage. His pants stop where his knees should be. Metal rods poke the earth as he tromps out of the woods. A flag, a troop, a unit forms to conquer the next obstacle. The 7-foot wall. They team. They work in unison. Components in a wondrous machine. Synthetic arms and legs together strive to do what was done so naturally before the war. They bear the torso of a man tucked neatly in a backpack. His face is young and lively. His body borne from back to back like some sacred shrine carried over this long pilgrimage. He moves without arms or legs, is passed hand to hand over the wall. His face meets mine. Our glances fall into each other as he recognizes me for who I am, a father waiting for his son. That's it.
I'm happy to dedicate these poems to the people of Strumica, Macedonia, and Toledo, Ohio.
All right. I had fun doing this.
This is called When Spectators Run. Good cheer looks like 500,000 rejoicing, while the ordinary do something extraordinary. Hearts racing, full of spring, ache everywhere. Runners, spectators, each for one another, pumping, arms and legs pushing, mile after mile toward a finish line. Imperceptible cracks rupture, schisms fracture, there are splits. We speculate why. Every time we lose love, we wonder. Yet love should not stop. It should keep going, like blood. Blasts detonate bombs, sending ball bearings that should be confetti into crowds swollen with solidarity, teeming with adrenaline. Boston, life, blood. Many have finished, yet still run. You, with nothing pinned to your chest but courage, you run. Carrying child or stranger, you run. Trying, if you can, you run. 1 foot pounding in front of the other. Beholders of devotion and wonder. This is called Who After All. Who After All speaks today of the annihilation of the Armenians. Adolf Hitler said that on August 22nd, 1939. How do starving Armenians utter one word, mouths full of death, marching toward nowhere? What do you know of this genocide? Do words express extermination of the seized exceptional? Whose tongue speaks of bullets blown through the heads of able-bodied men? Who raped and tortured women and girls with long, dark brown braids? How did old and young look hanging on and onto the cross? Yesterday, when did one, after all, speak of our annihilation? Her father, mother, brother, sister seized one savage night. What can you do when a Turk holds a gun over you? Grandma would not tell. Hidden by her father's Turkish friend, now his unlikely daughter, risky, escaped by dangerous disguise. Could she not reveal dark peril in bright land? Why not speak like Jews? This minor key of massacre silences. Speak her secrets and more. We share a face that compels. Sooner or later, everyone must ask, after all, where are you from? Someday none of us will be left whose ripe cheeks have been pinched like plums by old yearning survivors, twinkling almost black eyes, proud with celebrated noses, dark olive skin. We have been kissed by Arat. By God we live, Anushignetas, my sweet ones. We have eaten the unimaginable stories, choked on mystery, licked our lips on extraordinary, but we are lost as to how to unveil voice so eventually you can speak after all. We know, we'll tell. Don't worry, Mom. And this one's called First Mother. Roll, roll, Rosa, roll down where wheels roll on that Cleveland Avenue bus. Move on back. Move back or this driver orders the Montgomery police bust. Rosa rides the bus to and from work at the Montgomery Fair department store, where quietly she sews up modesty, stitch by stitch. Rosa Louise Macaulay Parks rides. Seen through judicious glasses in 1955, occupies impeccable dignity any day, the way she inhabits her rightful vinyl seat. The 1st of December she is due, tired. Not of things a working 42-year-old woman grows tired, but tired of giving in. Discriminated, incriminated, and though she is not trying to do anything but get home tonight, she will not be moved. There is no stopping a boycott for freedom now. With the eloquent breath of refusal, she receives the moment thrust upon her. So tired, the constant kicking feet, labor pains, violent, increasing contradictions begin to give birth to a delivery crying out for justice. For Rosa Parks, ordinary, heroine, mother. Endurance finally known. 12 years since that same bus driver, left her on the curb of humiliation. Rain rolling down her face, streaming over her sensible coat. Soaking, walking on tired feet 5 miles. The patience that courage contains. The face that stops hundreds of buses moves thousands of feet. To do nothing and change everything, Rosa Parks. For such a time, such a pitiful time as this, stir a dream and the poet preaches. March to the blindfolded and scale the mountaintop without bitterness or violence. Stillborn are too many of God's children, tired. Still too many labor motherless, sitting in the center of a movement home, trying to get hope tonight.
Hello, everyone. I have two poems to share with you. It's funny, I didn't really know what to bring because I have so many that I feel like could work, and you changed my mind. So I'm going to do this one from my phone. Some of you know that I was a part of the Occupy movement with Occupy Charlottesville here at Lee Park, and this is about global change and positive energy, and I was one of the people there for many of the GA meetings. And so when it was over, I decided to write a poem about the experience I had. And so it's called New Grass Grows. I remember when the park was just a park, with no tents, no signs, no campfire, and no spark. Just a place dogs go to play and poop, as their owners try to hide what they decide not to pick up. I remember eating lunch there, sitting on a bench in my own solitaire. Friendless, helpless, but hopeful for change, wondering when my life will cease to abide, waiting to decide for something more. I remember that cold, rainy day it was said to come support the 99% under a big white tent. There were cameras and umbrellas, a whisper of hope in the air, a defiant, "We are still here," a first meeting of radical strangers. Well, it took 3 hours of conversation with much patience and most people's undivided attention. It was decided to occupy the nearby park. So bring your tents, bring your signs and blankets, but most importantly, bring your beating hearts. I remember when the park was filled to the brim with tents, bright eyes, and the occasional hymn. The fire pit became the hearth of our self-made dens, a place I called home, where strangers became lovers and where I found my long-lost friends. People were well fed with food and new friendships, energized by lively discussions and beautiful mic checks. Meeting every night under the changing moon, people knew my name as I claimed my voice back, not a moment too soon. After speaking our words of truth, hope, and love, we were abruptly evicted from our revolutionary abode. After 11 o'clock, the police came to take my friends away. A part of me died that fateful night, alongside any hope for my government. Since I was not allowed in the park, I cried tears on the sidewalk and felt a familiar emptiness for days. Now, when the sun is up, I still eat lunch in that graveyard park, with no tents, no signs, no voices, no campfire, and no spark. As I look around these pieces of earth, I remember all of those who stood with me. Like stepping on unmarked graves, it is like a ghost town to me today. As I eat, no one talks to me now, because no one knows my name. Next to that stupid statue, dogs still poop and play. Their owners still haven't cleaned up the mess they've made. Not much has changed to the untrained eye. But as I look down, I see proof of what once was. What I see is new grass, growth, and rebirth. I see new grass growing where the tents once stood. I see new green where the fire pit once burned. I see new life in those places once barren, with so many movement, with so many footprints. This park was filled with spark and full of life each night. Truth be told, the proof is in the soil,
The earth remembers our presence, even if no one else does. I see growth in the hearts of those who courageously stood up for equality, financial stability, and the right to be heard. I see progress in the connections we've made, complete strangers turned into good friends, and the people we know now are the names we call out when we are in need of help, instead of reverting to old destructive habits. I see rebirth from the ashes of despair. People once isolated and alone prove their worth to themselves. Once dim candles find the fire within. The tears I cried on the sidewalk was a necessary part of universal transformation. True change is only birthed when there is a release, a letting go, with a renewed sense of self. Such beauty comes from birth, death, and resurrection. How fitting to see the new grass grow as a sign of strength from within. Proving the cycle of life never dies, only changes form. And if you wait long enough, it will always come back, and better than before. As memories play their part and build on each other, my life is forever changed by the experiences felt in this tent city. As we protested for change on a broad scale, we found a kinship of misfits and started with the only thing you can truly change, and that is, very simply, yourself. Thank you. And so I forgot to do this because I was so excited to do that. So I would like to dedicate this poem to the people in Seoul, South Korea, and Tampa, Florida.
Hello, shapers and visionaries all over the world. I'm J.T. Brown, and I have one poem to read, and it's dedicated to Edinburgh, Texas, and Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And well, I'd like to say that we're here in Charlottesville, home of the University of Virginia, founded by Thomas Jefferson, and not far from Monticello. And of course, Jefferson being a founding father of the nation, I would wonder what he would think today about our military and industrial complex that we're a nation constantly at war. And I would think that a lot of the original founders would be quite upset with what's going on today. My poem is Elvis in a Dark Dream. Sleep, Elvis, dream of summer days gone by, in the heated beat of promise, the anticipation of something new, dancing on endless highways through the dashboard radio. Dream, Elvis, in the land of summer now, on the road of Gilgamesh and Enkidu, in the heat of hairdryer winds, kicking blind in a simoon, the sheath of a grim giant. Shake it over the Tigris, rock in the Abu Ghraib. Rattle and roll to tears and mourning in a pink Cadillac jihad. Blast them into the space age, baby oily pelvis. Rock and roll forever in shifting desert sands. Wash with the blood of ancients from your guitar hands. You are dancing in a dark dream. Where is the idol we once knew? Where has your song gone to? Take the road home to the land of promise. Give us back our dreams. We'll be waiting for you here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm William Vollrath. I'm a new resident of Charlottesville by way of Chicago. And it's wonderful to live in a community with such a vibrant writers support group, many support groups, and this is a great event that we're all participating in. I'm proud to join our poet brothers and sisters in Guatemala City, Guatemala, and Mexico City, Mexico, in my readings today. I tend to write short poems, so I'm going to read probably about 4. And the first one is I think, appropriate for a day celebrating global rebirth. It's called I'm Pregnant. I'm pregnant. I surrendered myself, a servant to suggestion, blinded by expectation, stripped of inhibiting pride. I revel in my awkwardness, blushing with fulfillment, nourished by this hunger, peaceful in my solitude. I shall bear an idea. Pregnant. This poem is about some of life's aggravations and my approach one day to dealing with them. It's called Please Go Away. I don't like you. Stain in the rug, squeak in the chair, spider in the cupboard, lump in the bed. This isn't your home. Ache in my heart, noise in my song, anger in my day, hole in my soul. I'll count to 10, then please go away. Okay, on this day of global rebirth, this poem is called Reborn. Season cycles herald newly skipped skin. Cumulative postcards of karma's road trip. Abundant tears and fears joyfully shed. Temporary finality mysteriously evolves. Promised tomorrows again born today. Couple more. This is a good one for this time of the year. Bit of a metaphor. It's called the apple. The apple ripens wondrously at the perfect rate to realize its multiple potentials. Sweet or tart, red or green, reaching maturity, embraced by sun and air, only to be plucked from its lofty cradle. Scarlet skin peeled away, cool juices drained, golden meat consumed, till only the core remains. The apple's essence, born from a season of growth, then decay. Sweet quintessence, the apple's true self, crafted over time, now generously gifts seeds for a budding tomorrow. Two more. Little poem on cosmic growth and evolution called Fires Manifest. Conceived by the divine, infinite and absolute, the unknowable. Evolving consciousness manifest in the now. Energy harnessed, perfection yet realized. Life's vibrations fueling growth each gifted day. And finally, this poem's pretty self-explanatory and again, I think appropriate to what this day is all about. It's called Connected. Each identical, each different, all connected from before conception to beyond death. All connected in triumph and defeat. All connected in feast and famine, poverty and wealth. All connected in love and hate, hope and fear. All connected, growing beyond the moment, reaching for the golden light, all eternally connected. Thank you.
Hello. I called you lively because I think you are, but really, that's not your last name. Joanna Lee.
Right. It's close, Lively Lee. This is for White River Junction, Vermont, and Cairo, Egypt. 1. Trauma, female, 98, 32. Broken and blank, the eyes looking up at a watered-down sun as thin wheels pass the lintel of what used to be a home, make for the gaping bay doors and the locked hallways beyond. She stares like a stargazer discovering Orion for the first time. It is her first sun in weeks, strapped down to a stretcher, bouncing over the weeds that had crept up in her absence. A doll dressed to dance that someone had forgotten to wind. And I wonder, do people even wind dolls anymore? Aren't today's models supposed to be thin-hipped, prepossessed, fully loaded, and battery-operated with eyes that don't blink and wrists that don't bleed? 2. She is grass and azure empty, her horizon cut off right below where heart should be. There are daisies in her navel, over her palms, thighs. She is open-handed. Clouds shroud her blue-skied breasts, her blue-hued head. She stands planted, blouseless, face down. If I could fill the yellow eyes of her knees and thumbs and fingertips with skin made of green-growing words, I would say, see the heavens in yourself and look up. 3. A footnote on physiognomy. I hung my heart from the stiff arms of a Joshua tree to dry in the Mojave sun. It grew beautiful for a moment, beautiful as all the poetry in the world. The veins tightened and cracked, muscle fibers stiffened and swung ever so slightly in the rarefied air, paling against the blue of the desert sky. Sooner or later, all things in the desert turn to dust or stone and speak with hushed voices. While this poem drank from desert ground with fingers spread out shallowly among the loneliness, I sank down in the shadow to learn what tree and poem already knew. It must become harder to breathe before it gets easier.
Thank you, poets. I am really enjoying listening to your work. And the poem I'm going to read today is by Robert Frost. And it is in honor of Robert Frost, of course, but also dedicated to the people in Edinburgh, Scotland, where I happened to buy this necklace of a little sparrow, hopeful sparrow, and Papa Israel. So thank you, Polly, for having this. This is The Courage to Be New, and many of you probably are familiar with it. I hear the world reciting the mistakes of ancient men, the brutality and fighting they will never have again. Heartbroken and disabled in body and in mind, they renew talk of the fabled federation of mankind. But they're blessed with the acumen to suspect the human trait was not the basis human that made them militate. They will tell you more as soon as you tell them what to do, with their ever-breaking newness and their courage to be new.
Thank you. It is really an honor to be here today. Thank you for coordinating this. And my little slip says, Albania, fire, from Sydney, Australia. But I would also like to dedicate today and these poems to a poet who was imprisoned a long time in Nigeria. So Wole Soyinka, who wrote 1001 African Cowries. He is dead now, but I salute him, and he was a very brave man. Thank you. My first poem is from Seasons, my first book. When crickets sing inside the house, and pears hang golden on the tree, when walnuts bang upon the roof, it's autumn for the squirrels and me. When roadside stands put pumpkins out with baskets of apples and squash, when corn stalks darken in the field and all the leaves are color-washed, when yellows bloom beside the road and chilly mists hang in the air, when honking geese fly south in V's and acorn cups are everywhere, when lawns and wooded lanes are thick with leaves that whisper to the shoe, and only chickadees are left, do you get sentimental too? My second poem is from the Steering Wheel Poems, my second book, which I believe we heralded right here in WriterHouse. Do not look too long at the virgin land this spring, denuded, deflowered, at the zenith of its loveliest time, for surely you shall grieve as I. Do not look at the signs offering sale of all that is not theirs to sell. Money lovers have never understood that the earth belongs to us all. Do not try to tell them with your poems how very heartless they've become. They will only point to your land and house, sweep it clean, even while you sleep. This is for Bill. Words for my woodcutter. Our winter wood is double stacked beside the fireplace. Opposite are the kindling sticks that will light our wood stove's face. The weary laborer who cut and split our winter's fuel sits next to me and soundly sleeps, beat from his back-breaking duel. How well I know the carrying, double stacking this wood. In coldest weather, breath steaming, wrapped in jacket and hood. Now I spend my days cooking meals to feed the hungry man. I kiss him as he soundly sleeps, like wives since time began. The loveliest things. The loveliest things are the quietest. Have you ever noticed that it's so? Breath of evening breeze, softly falling snow. A lingering kiss between lovers,
falling petals from a flower, finest drops in a springtime shower. First time a kitten sings its purr, full moon's light silvering the lake, aroma from a rising cake, pianissimo of a plucked harp, faintest cooing from the morning dove, starshine on snow and night sky above. The loveliest things are the quietest. This is why I compose with a pen, why I do it again and again. And my last poem, for the children of Theresienstadt after World War II, 15,000 children passed through Theresien's desolate door, jammed in boxcars to Auschwitz. 100 returned, no more. They left paintings and poems of the suffering they saw, but like children everywhere, overcame misery with awe. They remembered butterflies running through fields of green grass, schools and fine homes with good food, even as the death carts passed. They watched parents disappear, heard screams as inmates were shot. They gobbled the wormy bread, were grateful for what they got. Pictures and poems show pain, but the children told much more. Courage and optimism as they moved toward death's dark door.
Thank you, Polly, and everybody. So I'm reading today in solidarity with poets and people for change in Santa Barbara, California, and in Kathmandu, Nepal. This poem doesn't really need a preface. Oh, I do use the word NOAA, which is an abbreviation or acronym, I guess, for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Something crude after the 2010 Gulf oil spill. Something crude is happening here, black, tarry, smelling powerfully of what has rotted under great pressure until it metamorphosed and oozed between sheets of shale, deep underground, holding on to its energy. Above ground, the spurt of outrage stalls, muffled in the halls of power, squelched in the malls of middle America as unemployment and a deluge of pre-digested news squash our appetite for action, while the boots of the wildlife rescue volunteers squish in oily muck. Shock at the enormity attenuates as months pass, while the inky tentacles of the beast spread, even as all over the land the gulf between haves and have-nots widens. Wave-borne, the slime spirals out, entrained into the Gulf Stream, as the NOAA expert said on NPR. I was in my car, listening, driving someplace. Soon from Florida north, he said, we will notice it too on our coasts. We will feel something black creeping up from the automobile floorboards as we grip our steering wheels, all already touched by the engulfing habit of oil. This one is called My Trip. I wakened in a field of poppies, feeling a little hungover. I have red sparkly shoes on my feet and a dress with an apron thing. What's it called? A pinafore. My backpack is here though. Cell phone getting 5 bars. Good morning. Are you all right? A creature from an art exhibit is leaning over me. Bicycle seat for a head, eyes, red reflectors, limbs, a crankshaft with pedals. Where the Tin Man lacked for a heart, gears and a chain, perfectly oiled. I'm recycle, he says. I introduce myself as myself, but ask, is this a dream? I'm dressed like Judy Garland, and I guess I'm lost. Lady, I've seen stranger outfits than that. We get these weird vortices. People fall through all the time. I wish I were dreaming. My derailleur and solenoid are both on the fritz. Can you believe it? So I'm off to see the wizard. Do you want to come? She can probably schedule a transfer to your planet. Oh, great. It's not a dream. The shoes are pretty, but not that comfortable. So I'm setting off for Oz with Peak Oil Sculpture Man and Toto nowhere in evidence. The city is green, all right. Wind turbines whirring over small organic farms, roofs with solar panels or sprouting sod, every creature comprised of wheels, using the planet's magnetic fields, Recycle explains. It seems like English, but he says no, it's the translational towers. They let us understand one another's languages. The wizard keeps morphing from Oprah to Mahatma Gandhi to a Siamese cat with big blue eyes. It's what you're thinking about, she says. When I say Earth, they spin their gears, whispering, fossil fuels, corporate oligarchy, hunger, something called war, intentional death and dismemberment. They put me on the first conveyance. Now I'm home with this ridiculous, crazy person, alien, non-abduction story. I can't tell anyone, especially not my therapist. I'll have to write it all down and let people chalk it up to make-believe. This is my last poem. This is kind of a strange mishmash of having heard a radio story about a Libyan writer. Hang on, I need to get my water. So he was being interviewed for a novel he just written, and he was talking about his father, who was a politico who was jailed under Gaddafi's rule. And he was talking about how important his father said the poems that he had memorized as a child were to him when he was in prison. And then I also, at about the same time I was writing this poem, had watched a recent version of Les Miserables. So, poetry, bah, you can't eat it. Eat your poems. The ones you were made to memorize in grade school, the lines you copied onto index cards or inserted at the bottom of emails. It doesn't matter if you don't remember them exactly or at all. Your adolescent love poems, fragments scrawled in a journal on Valentine's, nursery rhymes, song lyrics, all your poems. Eat your poems. They are nourishing, will sustain you in prison, in hiding, under duress, invoking the people you love, stories that wove your bones. Their jubilant ghosts revive your dreams that were shorn, stripped, mutilated, murdered. They sing, hum, percolate, resonate in a place apart from beatings and cattle prods. Poems will wash your feet, dry them with long hair, rock you to sleep if you allow. You may say them silently, their breath moving softly over your lips. You know the sound of survival, gripping words like handholds, damselfly, hibiscus, surreptitious, genuflect, alpenglow. Crumple your poems into a ball and fit them into your heart. Soaked in arterial blood, they will stand with you in the square, follow you under the fence, into the courtroom, stare down the helmets, add one more tire to the barricade, tip the scales, tip you off, eat them now.
Oh, people of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Reykjavik, Croatia, hear us. No wilderness. There is no wilderness like that of the heart. Though I trudge unpioneered forests, the floating seeds of transgression trail behind me. I am chagrined to have spider webs snapping across my face, the warbler gossiping behind my back. Beyond claimed boundaries, I rely on instinct, the sense of vulnerability in camping under the stars, of chancing the intimacy between a man and mankind. Into the precious happenstance of nature I forge ahead, orienting by rote as late shadows mimic the order I presume to make, the direction I have chosen. Closer to the clearing in the heart of the wilderness, I crouch down against a fallen trunk to scout my conflicts, for some blossom of heroism, some hope. Vultures glide on the pool of blues, sullen clouds. They look me over, but sail on, carrying in their blackness the raw pity of my wandering. So I abandon this dead reckoning and plunge into briars, understanding finally the wilderness which is in the heart. How to carve angels on commission. There's an epigram from Stevie Wonder. If you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. Begin with the faith that they are there in the wood waiting, and with lumber, crayon, chainsaw, mark, and machine ragged figures. There is danger in the dust of angels hanging in the air like a deciduous wreath, the torch burning upside down. Ignore the blisters, arthritis, self-doubts, and keep gouges keen by stone and leather. Let each chip of brow and cheek reveal your steady eye. Do not ask too early if they laugh. Do not agonize over a moral fold of drapery, a kinky feather. There will be skepticism enough that you cannot resolve. You will be exhausted, disoriented from struggling with angels day after day. They have a clumsy honesty to them, but it comes from the heart. Behind you they wink, imperfect beings with splits and knots, but something at this point you should believe in. Don't panic, you'll finish, trumpets and all, before the deadline, delivered in good condition. And after sweeping up time, every tool home asleep, your mind will be profoundly empty, the glow of epiphany fading. And entrance. On the searing side of August, when kids shadow hop, I scrape crazed paint from the front door casing, quirked bead, OG, pilaster flutes, generations of off-white chips like game pieces on the grid of the brick porch. In those recesses, pigment tenaciously clings, as does the last mayonnaise in the jar. I should strip it all cleanly with chemicals or heat gun, but I do not, preferring the relative skill of scraper and wire brush. Some future restorer may marvel at my vernacular ways. I will, by adding my own coat, be blessing the history of painters. And friends will have the moments after their confident knock to notice the ghosts, the errant drips brushed over, to appreciate house maintenance as something to believe in.
I'm Patsy Asuncion, and I dedicate these poems to Nairobi, Kenya, and Bogor, Indonesia. I also noticed that the Philippines are missing, and that's my father's homeland, so I dedicate it to all the Filipinos in the house.
And all the poets of the Philippines.
Yes. No, let's take this off.
Look at her manuscript, would you?
No sense of nonsense. Try as I might, do as I should, look past the facts, would if I could. Nothing matters, I'm one in a crowd. It's not my doing, no fault allowed. War after war, load and reload. Faceless bodies, hatred explodes. Centuries bleed, one to another. Righteous cause, but greed the crusher. Ancient Rome and Greece lived by wars, bloodbaths in Europe and African shores, British, Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese, treasures from natives, taken with ease. Modern day wars, more of the same, noble and just, only in name. Nuclear bombs and chemical warfare, stakes made higher, death everywhere. Kenyan radicals, Syrian rebels, Korean plutonium, Chinese Jezebels. Ain't it awful? Say pointed fingers, good guys, bad guys, shallow justice lingers. Nam war protests, my youth's soup du jour. Believing right from wrong, we were cocksure. No longer savvy, can't see what to do. Death lives on, waiting for me and you. I think I'm going to Cast Out, C-A-S-T-E, is about my biracial heritage. Cast out. Home, urban ghetto, a soup kitchen of black, white, Hispanic, and Slavic immigrants, each to their own. Gang turf, work crew, church creed. Family, the fortress, mixing was risky. Move for fools. Dark as mahogany, my Filipino father had fondness for white women, at least 3 wives, I heard. 2 blondes and an Irish redhead my teen mother left before my first birthday. They were his American dream. As a child, I sensed the shadowy stares, deliberate disguised glances my way during outings. I was the curious cub, inspected by unfamiliar visitors at the zoo, their pastime. Surveillance skittered when I looked their way. I zigzagged to my father, then my stepmother, then to other onlookers in unspoken prejudice. I was saved for last, my moves and milk chocolate features noted for discussion after we were gone. Civilized bias politely discouraged me all my life. Breakups by college boys after meeting parents, questions about my heritage by strangers, not the right look in auditions, rejection by intolerant in-laws. Bigotry extended beyond whitewashed walls to the full-blooded Filipino world that erased me. Shunned at celebrations cut from Tagalog dialect, forgotten in family headlines, denied birthrights. My parents never hinted, never joked, never talked about the invasive scrutiny. Dad taught by example. He proudly pushed his platinum tow-headed grandson in public to say we are all the same under the skin. Oliver Sacks is the one that wrote the book, and then from that came the movie Awakenings, which had to do with Parkinson's. And he's written another book called Musicophilia, and in it he says humans in particular have a common thread even before language, and it's music. Even before language. And so I was inspired to write this poem, a little more upbeat, called Universal Language. Spontaneous musical response. Even in the womb, the unborn dance to notes, beats, a primal inherent connection. For 2 million years, music has been keynote, reaching the mortal heart, mind's eye, hungry ear. Before language, sounds and rhythms captured all cultures. An intrinsic power, musical tones bind all groups. People sing and dance in collective excitement, all cued by rhythms, internalized as one. Concerts, marches, dirges, work songs, synchronize brains in choreographed waves, like birds in formation, like fish in schools, like turtles in migration. Tune transcends disease. Folks with aphasia sing, with Tourette's drum, with retardation dance, with dementia remember. Music fights back. Man's humanity survives. Melody is understood without symbol, instruction, straight to the heart. Music pierces people with pain and grief, yet brings solace and consolation. Thank you.
Hello.
like to dedicate my reading to poets in Gachuini, South Africa, that's how it's said, and Detroit, Michigan. Very different places, I'm sure. I'd love to see both of them. A day. It will be a day just like today or tomorrow, sunny and cool or warm. Birds will fly, brooks flow. Not noticing, we'll be looking down at our busyness. And years from now, our talk will still be about where we were and what we heard. Still life with clouds. Clouds push to, push past the keen December moon, secured by steady stars. Wide sky features, moon, stars, and clouds are where I love them most. Framed by dark, bare branches, braving winter's cold. Thank you.